Hey everybody, my next guest is a celebrity journalist who has interviewed countless celebrities in the last 3 decades, and his new book, 50 of the Funniest People of All Time, 3 decades of legendary interviews, highlights some of his greatest interviews with true comedy icons. Here he is to tell us all about it, the one and only CHAUCE Hayden. CHAUCE, what's up, bud?
Hey man, thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Dude, it's awesome to have you on. Um, like I said, I'm a Long Island guy. Grew up with Stern. Grew up listening to you, calling in, almost like felt like a daily basis on the show back in those days. But
Crazy times, yeah.
dude, those are I think that was like probably the best era of Stern. Also, like the K Rock days and into the early days of.
Oh yeah, the K-Rock days were amazing. The, you I don't know. I was banned from the show when Sirius started. The first year Sirius started, I was literally banned from the show. My name was not allowed to be mentioned. So I missed all of that. But in a way, I'm actually very happy about that. It was like being kicked off the show right before it jumped the shark. So I can say I was there for the glory years when they had 16 million people listening every morning. You could ask the mailman, the guy behind the counter at the deli, the school teacher, the bartender. Everyone could tell you what happened that morning on the Howard Stern show. So to be
Exactly.
a part of those years, it's nothing better.
Dude, yeah, you were definitely part of the best of it because, like, I think too, once he went to Sirius, the format kind of changed. He changed. You had to pay to play, to pay to listen, and I think there's some kind of a drop off of listenership. It just wasn't the same. And I've through the years, I've listened off and on. In the arty era, so to speak, if you want to call it that, and
Sure.
it just was never really the same to me. So like, and nowadays Howard's a whole different human being. He's not
Oh,
even.
yeah. Howard had a choice to make. He had a choice to retire and kind of go into obscurity in his mansions around the world, or become extremely woke and be what he is now. But with his past, with the blackface, the N word, all the things that he did, if he didn't go ultra woke, he wouldn't be on the air. He wouldn't be existing in our minds today had he not gone the path that he's gone. So I think for him, it was a money grab. He wanted to keep making those hundreds of millions of dollars. And the only way he could do it is be the Howard he is today. And it's very sad because how much money does one need in life? He has more money than he could spend in 100 lifetimes.
Uh,
And he destroyed his legacy. I
yeah,
guess it
he
was
was.
worth it to him.
Yeah, to me, I think if he would have, let's just say he did bow out, let's just say he was canceled back then, right? When he was
Yeah.
still beloved and had a legion of fans behind him, and he was still, edgy. And again, in today's culture, when you look back at what he did, like you said, the blackface, the N word, a lot of the racist stuff, a lot of the sexist stuff, and you know, um, a lot of off kilter things like Dana Plato and all that sort of
Oh,
stuff. You
playing
say,
playing with my girlfriend's bones on the air. I don't know if you remember that show.
yes,
Debbie
yeah,
Tay. I mean, how
yes.
much worse does it get than that? Than taking a dead person, having their ashes on the show, opening the box, and picking up the ashes and rattling them in your fingers, shaking them around.
Had a beard.
That's that's her head.
It's a temple.
That's a piece of her
But it's
cheek.
not rounded. Why would you say that?
She had a square jaw.
Yeah,
Does
that
it get any?
was
Does it go any further off out to left field than that? So, but that's what made people listen. You know.
Yeah, I think if he bowed out then, if he went out like that, he would have been sort of a martyr, and he would have been like, I think, like I have Lenny Bruce T-shirts, I have Bill Hicks I think there would have been Howard
Yeah.
Stern type. You know what I mean? He would have
Of
been.
course, he would have been a martyr. But you
Yeah.
know what's even better? If he would have stayed the same guy he was all those glory years and went through the cancellation period, and even if he was taken off the air, that's kind of over with now. He could have came back today, kept his legacy, and said, "Hey, we're back," you know?
Right.
And it would be awesome, like Anthony Kuma on
Right. Yep.
WABC. He's back, and he's back, and he's the same guy he always was on the Opie and Anthony show. Never changed.
He
And
never
people
changed.
love him for it. Stern could have done the same thing, but took the wrong path. At least in my opinion, he did.
I think so too, because I think he lost credibility, and now he's wants to be this woke guy and friendly and like the kind of softball interviews and things like that. Because for me with Stern, back in the day, and this goes into you because you're an interviewer by trade. I think that Howard Stern back then was one of the greatest interviews I ever saw in my life because, and that's what really lured me to him as a kid listening to him, was because he was able to talk to celebrities and get things out of them like nobody else at that time period.
Ask questions that no other interviewer would ask, and even if it was funny, just to get a shocking response, or
Right.
just for the listener. It wasn't for the celebrity to sell a book or promote a movie. It was to make us laugh.
Right.
That's what it was
Exactly.
for. The celebrity was a prop to make us laugh, and that's why we loved them. Now it's the opposite. Now the listeners are the props.
Right.
And the celebrity is the person that Howard needs to get favor from. In the old days, he didn't care if the celebrity walked out. In fact, it was better if the
Right.
celebrity walked out after the first question. Then they talk about it for an hour and we'd all giggle about it.
Right. Exactly. And
That's
we were
what
all
made
in
the
on
show
it. Yeah.
all in on it. It was a joke. And now the listeners are the joke.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's just weird, like you said, how that happened. Was it to save his money, or did he kind of, you know, join the Hollywood elite into whatever cult or whatever that might
All of
be?
that.
Yeah,
All of
so
that. It was for the money. It was for his kids. It was for Beth. It was for, he didn't want to go out as the guy that threw baloney at strippers' asses.
Right.
In his mind, he wanted to be remembered as that the amazing interviewer, that the man who could sit with leaders of the world and ask them deep questions about their philosophy towards God and visions beyond what we can comprehend. But he's not going to be known as that. He's going to be
Nope.
known as the guy who sold out his audience and became a woke asshole.
Woke means I can't get behind Trump, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine. Well, dude, call me woke as you want. I ran out Friday morning. I was over at CVS. Thank you, CVS. I went over there 9 a.m. and got myself that new vaccine for COVID.
And that's going to be the legacy of Howard Stern.
That's so true. And you know who does get that legacy that you spoke of is probably somebody he doesn't like, and that's Joe Rogan will get that accolade.
Joe Rogan, yes, Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan will, and you know what? There's a bunch of others now coming up. Some of the podcasters out there, and you're doing it now, right? There's a lot of people doing it, and I would say there are 100 more other podcasts out there now that blow away the Howard Stern show. Just to hear honest talk, and you know what I love? Megyn Kelly.
Yeah,
Megyn
she
Kelly's-
really became herself through podcasting.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
If we don't find our voices and start speaking up against this nonsense, we can kiss every woman's space goodbye. We can kiss women's rights goodbye. We can kiss sororities goodbye. We can take off our tops and our underwear and do our yoga in front of perverted men who just want to get off watching us till the cows come home. Stick your daughter in the sorority. Let them at her. Find your voices, ladies, and the men who support us. Otherwise, this is our future. I'm sorry. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this shit at Tri Delt, at Kappa Kappa Gamma, in the women's locker room. You can be supportive of trans people and what they're going through without surrendering to this madness.
Listen to her show and listen to the Howard Stern show. She interviews people and she holds their feet to the fire. She's intelligent. She tells it like it is, good and bad. Howard, it's all good. It's all
Right.
good because he loves you. He loves you for being on his show. And you're amazing for being on his show. And he worships you for being on his show. And he hopes you worship him back.
Exactly.
There's no need for listeners. It's about him and the person whose ass he's kissing. There's no need for one listener because you're not going to get one single thing out of it. Nothing.
Dude, imagine you like you grow up a Stern fan, K-Rock era, you coma, you wake up now and here's Howard Stern. I mean, it's
I
like
think
night
about
and
that all
day.
the time. I think about that. I think, you know what, I always say how funny it would be to be 1995, and if you could go into the future and have 1995 Howard listen, be there, invisible in the studio as he does a show and Sirius in 2025, and then come back and tell us what he saw. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, that's a great premise, man. Because he would probably rip himself to shreds.
Oh my God. I think he would cut his throat. I think he'd kill himself. And I think another great show would be if Howard took all the people that he banned from the show, whose names can never be mentioned in any way, shape, or form, and had a week of all of them coming on the show. I think would be
Yes,
an amazing show.
that would
There's
be
so
great.
many of us. There's so many of us that were killed off the show. It'd be great to have them on. But he's not, that's never gonna happen because that Howard is dead. He's
Yeah.
dead. He's also banned. That Howard Stern is also banned from the Howard Stern show.
That's a great way to put it. He is. It is. It's a whole different thing, and
Yeah.
it is weird. One thing about Howard through the years, when I've noticed, was he can just dispose of people. Like you were a regular. AJ Benza,
That.
who did the forward for you in
Yep.
this book. Stuttering John, Jackie. There's Artie. There's so many that just now.
Gilbert before he died.
Yeah.
There was so many. So there's a lot. There's a book. There's actually, they uncovered this. Someone sneaked it out of Sirius. There's actually a red book with all the names that can never be mentioned. And I think Stuttering John, before he went off the deep end, did a show once where he read all the names. Someone sent him, a mole sent him a copy of all the names.
Wow.
And it was fascinating to see the names who can never be, Pat Cooper was another one, can never be mentioned. And
Wow.
you know how far it goes? There's a podcast called The Deafening, and these guys are great. They're like Stern, experts. They have done so much uncovering of the new Stern. They found that there were shows that I did in the 90s and early 2000s that now, when you watch those shows, when Stern puts them out there, they've edited my name out of every sentence that comes up, and anyone that happens to bring me up, it's cut out of those archives. So there can
That's
be
crazy.
no history of me ever being on the show coming out of the Stern universe.
That's
They played
nuts.
they played it back to back. They played like a Joe Rogan interview, and I call in and I call Joe Rogan out on all these things that he said to me in an interview, and it's great. Then they play the Howard Stern release of that interview, and all that's gone, and it's cut and pasted into all these weird things that leap around me, so you
Wow.
don't hear my voice or hear any mention of me.
That's just so crazy that Howard Stern, who was the being censored, FCC, the crucified, and all these things,
He's
is
all
the
those
first
things
one-
that he hated. Yeah,
He's become it all.
yeah.
And I remember when he was going to war with Opie and Anthony, and they said that Howard restricted them from using his name, and they had to call him Radio Edit and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I think Opie and Anthony may have come, and Anthony Cumia, like you said, shout out, he's on ABC now. He's kind of making his way
Doing
back.
great, yeah.
Never faltered, never changed who he
Nope,
is.
never changed.
But for Howard to do that, to put a cease and desist on using their name, and I love how they outsmarted him by calling him Radio Edit and calling him out. And I think they were the closest ones to ever really defeat him at his own game. They came so close.
Okay, we're back, and I have some more. I'm being ripped off again, Robin. Have you heard this WAF Real Rock TV? They're filming inside the radio station with video cameras. Who thought of that, Robin? Me, Howard. I invented the video camera. And now they got this Real Rock TV where they're going to be showing behind the scenes of a radio station. It's an outrageous ripoff, Robin.
They put the fear of God in him, and that's when you first started to see the ugliness of Howard Stern, right? You got to see the Howard that we would eventually learn to know and hate.
Right.
Yeah. Where he became a bully. He could give it out, but he couldn't take it. And that was kind of, for me, that was a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, same here.
That he couldn't. You punched the bully in the nose, and the bully cried and ran home. And that's
Exactly.
what the Opie and Anthony show did in those days. They would give him a quick punch in the nose, make it bleed, and Howard would cry. And
Yep.
that was kind of a window into what Stern truly was.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because like you said, the show was amazing. Oh my God. The 90s, the 90s.
Those are the best, dude.
You'd wake up at 6 o'clock every morning. You got up at 6 o'clock to hear that opening credits, like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun, 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 dun. And it just made you smile hearing that. And
because you hear him like off air, like while the music's going, you hear him getting ready. Like, okay, Robin, like you hear like shuffling.
oh,
and
you
things.
knew it was just
just
gonna
the
be
best. Yeah.
the next 4 to 5 hours are gonna be amazing, and you couldn't get out of your car. It was just everything that happened was brilliant. So it's just, why couldn't he just quit? Just quit on top. It would have been so great had he
Yes.
quit.
He would have been
But
he would have been iconic. Like he still
he's
is
been
in a way,
iconic.
but he would have been different. It would have been Lenny Bruce, type of icon. He would have been, like
Oh, he's marred.
revered.
He's marred. There's such
Yeah.
a black mark. Because you know what it is? Everyone who is a fan hates him now.
Yeah.
And how do you change that? Young kids don't know who he is. Like people
Right.
under 40 don't even know who Howard Stern is.
Right.
They've never heard of him. So the age group of people who know Howard Stern from the 90s and 2000, they're getting up into their mid 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? They hate him now. They hate who that guy is. There's such a small audience who likes what they hear.
Right.
It's so little. No one really truly knows the numbers, but would it shock you if I said it was under 50,000 that listen to that show on a daily basis?
No,
Would that be shocking?
no. I mean, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have been shocked. But now knowing how it doesn't surprise me, especially when you do listen to Sirius. There's so many other options, so many other people to listen to.
Well, what I always tell people, go outside on the street and pick as many people as you can and ask them what Howard Stern talked about that morning. Go walk through the streets of New York City, up and
Right.
down Fifth Avenue. Stop 200 people and ask each one of them, what did Howard Stern talk about this morning? You will never find, not one person will be able to tell you, not one. So how many people are listening?
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Maybe 50,000, maybe less. Maybe
It's
less.
crazy. It's crazy. And from guys like you who've been there in the 90s and me just as a fan, I mean, it's such you almost got to shake your head like it's a shame, but it's almost like you said, the original Howard is dead.
I'll give you an example how big that show was. In the early 2000s, I was married, and my wife had gone with her girlfriends over to Greece for a
Right.
vacation, and they were sitting by this oceanside bar having drinks, and the bartender was kind of flirting with them, and they were talking to them, and he says to my wife, so what does your husband do? And he goes, oh, he's a writer, he's a journalist. And they go, oh, would I have heard of him? Is he somebody? She goes, no. It's a little magazine, New Jersey. And she said, his name's Chauncey Hayden. He goes, not Chauncey from the Howard Stern show. This was in a bar in Greece.
Wow.
That
That's
was
crazy.
the reach of the show in those days.
Dude, yeah, man. And you were, like you said, a big part of that show. You used to call in all the time, and you used to talk about
Yep.
Steppin' Out magazine and the interviews that you were doing,
Yep.
and you would give Howard like the inside scoop on a lot of the stuff that people you were talking to, what you were doing, and that caught my attention. And I was a young guy; I must have been about maybe 18, 19.
Wow.
And that got me going. Start writing, and there was another writer locally here named John Blen. I don't know if you know John Blen, but yeah, so he wrote for Good Times magazine. So I started also writing for Good Times magazine, and my goal was to kind of follow in your guys' footsteps. And
Good Times. That was like a freebie.
It was a freebie
So
on Long Island.
sort of like Stepping Out on the Long Island version.
Yes, exactly.
I think I remember that. I think because we were always kind of looking out for what people were doing around the tri-state area. I remember that.
Yeah, we were doing Good Times magazine, and I started writing for it, trying to kind of follow with you. Like I would actually get jealous when I would see some of your cover stories, and I'd be like, damn, like these guys are getting like, how are they getting all these great people, and we're getting like, just like, local
Because
heroes.
you know what I did? You know how I did it? The way I did it, you got to remember, in those days, it was before Google. Actually, before the internet in some of those years. The internet wasn't even, there was no email yet. So in those days, it was about sending faxes, typing a letter on a typewriter and sending out a fax to publicists. So my first interview, I'll tell you how I got it, and that became the formula for the next 20 years. I was dating this girl. I was selling chemistry analyzers. I wasn't in journalism or anything like that. I was selling parts to chemistry analyzers overseas. And I was dating this little skinny girl. And one day I was sitting on the couch and she said, I can take my knee, I'm so flexible, and throw it over the top of your head. I said, don't even try. Don't try, because if you miss, you're going to hit me square in the head. She goes, watch. And she throws her little bony leg up, hits me square between the eyes, and cracks my head open.
Holy shit.
So I get rushed to the hospital, and believe me, you're going to find out how this all relates to being a journalist. So I get rushed to the hospital, and I'm in the hospital for 2 weeks with a fractured skull. I get out, and the day I get out, the surgeon, the neurosurgeon says, whatever you do for the next year, do not do anything that could risk bumping your head. You've had a traumatic brain injury, and that God knows how long it's going to take
So
before
for a
you're normal
whole
again.
year, yeah.
Well, I get home from the hospital. I'm home for about 10 minutes, and I see that my stereo was unplugged. Stereos in those days. So
Right.
I get under the bed. I'm trying to reach the wire to plug into the wall socket, and my elbow hits the speaker wire on the ceiling. The speaker falls down on top of my head and cracks it open.
Holy.
An
Those are big
ambulance has to
speakers.
take me. Big wooden speaker. The ambulance takes me back to the hospital. The doctor, who 20 minutes ago said, whatever you do, don't bump your head, sees me in a gurney and my head split open.
Holy shit.
I spend a month in the hospital with traumatic brain injury. Bad. Like I couldn't speak, couldn't walk.
Wow.
Yeah, serious.
That's real. That's some real shit. Yeah.
Serious injury. Even today, I slur, I don't talk right. So I'm trying to recover from this, and God, they say I could never recover, maybe, or maybe it will take a year, maybe 2, 5 years, who knows? So he said, to help your brain, he goes, start painting and drawing. It will be therapy for your brain. So I started painting, and while I'm painting, I'm obsessed with this singer, Sinead O'Connor. I saw her face on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and I loved her bald head. And I started painting Sinead O'Connor on my wall, on canvas, on anything I could find. It was like a psycho. My entire room in my house was Sinead O'Connor. All different versions, like something out of a horror movie. It's just a billion pictures of Sinead O'Connor. Day and night, morning to the time I went to bed, Sinead O'Connor.
Wow.
And then I hear she's going to be performing in New Jersey at the then Garden State Arts Center. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to see Sinead O'Connor. I can't just go to the show. I got to meet her. How can I meet her? She's everything. So I come up with this plan. I see this little, like 10-page paper giveaway magazine in a bar across the street called Stepping Out. So I pick it up, and it has the weather on the cover. It has the weather for that week and about maybe 2 or 3 ads in it. So I bring it back to my house. I cut out with scissors the logo, Stepping Out. I scotch tape it to typing paper, and I type, my name is Chauncey Hayden. I'm a journalist who is the editor of Stepping Out magazine, and we'd like to feature Sinead O'Connor on the cover.
Wow.
Please let us know. She'll be available for an interview prior to the show at the Garden State Arts Center. Yours sincerely, Chauncey Hayden, editor of Stepping Up magazine. And I fax it to Elaine Shark, her publicist. And I never thinking I'm going to hear back. About a day later, I get a phone call. Yes, this is Chauncey. Yes. We've approved your interview request. So you'll be meeting Sinead O'Connor an hour before the show, and you'll get a half hour to sit and ask her questions for the cover of Stepping Out magazine. and they're like, what? They're like, what is Stepping Out, by the way? Oh, we print 2 million copies. It's in every city in America. It's mostly music based. We have many Irish acts, so she's perfect. Like, oh, excellent, excellent. You can't Google it. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, right. This is before you had
you don't know if I'm bullshitting. So I get backstage and I'm talking to this. I'm sitting there. I didn't know if I should kill her or interview her. Like, part of me said, I really should just cut her throat. I mean, I'm here. This is the time to do it. I'm crazy. I should kill her.
Yeah, it'd be a perfect opportunity.
I don't know what stopped me from killing her because it was on my mind. I said, or maybe just really interview her. I said, maybe do that. So I started asking her questions. I had a little tape recorder, and it was great. It was great. And that was the night that she wouldn't go on stage if they played the Star Spangled Banner. And it made global news all over the world. And Frank Sinatra said he was going to kick her in the ass. I had the only interview. So I go to the guy, Larry Collins, who started Stepping Out like a month ago. Right. And I saying, hey, do you want this interview with Sinead O'Connor? He goes, you have an interview with Sinead O'Connor? You want to give it to me? I said, yeah, because it's called Stepping Out. Where am I going to put it? Right. I told her Stepping Out. That's Stepping Out.
It makes sense
now.
So,
yeah. So I said, do you want it? He goes, listen. He goes, we have no money. We're like 5 pages. He goes, we work out of our mother's house. They go, but if you want to give it to us, we'll put your name on the cover and give you credit. So I said, that would be awesome. So we put Sinead O'Connor on the cover with my interview, and it made global news. It made news all over the world. The only interview with Sinead O'Connor talking about that night. And instantly, the magazine started getting calls from advertisers from everywhere.
So you helped put the magazine on the map.
So the magazine, the next day, they say, can you do this every week? I said, it's so easy. Of course, yeah. You just ask and they say yes. And yes, I can do this every week. They go, would you like to be the editor of Stepping Out? And I said, yeah. They said, how much? They go, well, we'll pay you $20 a week. $20 a week, and you can be the editor. And I said, and I was bartending at night. I said, that's great. I'll do it. So for the next 30 years, every single week, I did the same thing.
Wow.
I did, and it got to and then when
it
Howard
never killed anyone, never killed a soul.
Never killed that. No one, not that I'm going to admit to here. and it really blew up when I interviewed Sam Kinison and got into a fight with him. And that was the first time I was on the Howard Stern show, because Howard read it in the New York Post and said, who's this guy Chauncey? Is that a chick? Is that a guy?
Right.
And Gary says he's on the phone. You want to talk to him? It's a guy. So Howard said, who are you? And I said, my name's Chauce Hayden. I'm Stepping Out. He goes, Stepping Out. And he did a whole hour riff on Stepping Out and my name and how silly the whole thing is. And then from that day on, I became Chauncey from Stepping Out all the time. And as I did that, my name became known. The interviews became bigger. And because Howard was always talking about Stepping Out.
Hey, it's Dave from Factory Studios, and I advertise in Steppin' Out Magazine because the ladies like it.
People in California and publicists thought it's going to be a big Howard's always talking about Stepping Out. It's probably a great magazine for my client to be in. Right. If you have an A-list client, listen, Chauncey from Stepping Out wants to talk to you. He does everybody. A lot of big names do that magazine. You should do it. So it started snowballing. So every major A-list star had to do Stepping Out if you were promoting something.
Wow.
And it just took off.
And it all started with an obsession with Sinead O'Connor. So I want to go back to the Sinead O'Connor stuff real quick. Yep. So
fight the real enemy.
Yep. You got brain damage, like literally brain damage. And you're painting, and what was it about her? It was just her bald head, or was it the music?
I love the music. I love the music, and I love the bald. She looked like an alien. Like, she just looks like something so different than I've ever seen. I've never seen, in those days, you didn't see women shave their heads, And she had these big, giant doe eyes, these tremendous eyes, this beautiful, perfect face, but shaved head. I thought it was crazy because she was so beautiful. And she just, I always was attracted to crazy. Like I still am. I always was drawn into crazy. So I assumed she's off her rocker. She's totally insane, and so am I. That we should be together somehow. Like somehow we're kindred spirits.
So you actually had like those kind of thoughts of like stalkers type
Oh,
mentality.
I was a star. Yeah, if I had the opportunity, which I did get the opportunity, that's why it was so crazy because
Yeah.
I was a real stalker. Like I really was unstable. I really was contemplating killing her on the way to the Garden Arts Center. I
Wow.
was that unstable, and I had a brain injury. So
Wow.
I'm a nut. I'm a psychopath with a severe brain injury going backstage to interview Sinead O'Connor, who I'm obsessed with.
So now when you land the interview
Yeah.
and you have to start prepping for do you actually prep for the interview? Like do you
I didn't have to. I knew everything about her. I didn't for that. Later on, I did. I always did.
Right.
Like in those, you're gonna laugh because you're gonna know what I'm talking about. In those days, we didn't have Google, so to prep for an interview, you had to go to the local library and take nickels out of your pocket and put them in the microfiche machine.
Right.
Like you take like this tape and you'd run it through the microfiche, and you'd roll rollers and you could scan articles that ran from
Right.
years ago, right? Like a negative to a film.
Yeah.
And when you found the article, like in People magazine, you put a nickel in the machine and it would go and this smelly carbon copy would come out that you would get high on if you breathed it. And that would be my notes to copy for questions. So I would do that for like the first 3 or 4 years because
Right.
there was no internet.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do research, but I had to go to the library and look up articles and things on people.
Right.
And I always knew a lot about the person. I always, I don't know why. I just had a knack for it. I just asked questions. I got people to tell me things they never told anyone else.
Right.
And that would make the gossip pages. And so page 6 and all those guys started mentioning me.
But with this first one, right?
Yeah.
When you walk in, I'm just real fascinated because I know this is your first
Yeah.
interview. You
Yes,
really weren't
yes.
an interviewer.
No.
This was never on your radar to do this.
No, nothing.
And so you walk in, you got access now. You're in the stadium or whatever. You go backstage and
Yeah.
you're in the room and you
Yeah.
see her in person for the first time. What does that feel like?
My heart was racing out of my chest. Like I almost fainted. Like I literally almost fainted. I just couldn't believe after a year of drawing her face every day, all day long, every day, that I'm standing next to her. There's no words to describe that emotion, like that craziness. Like I can't believe I didn't faint or pass out.
It had to be surreal.
It was
you've been
surreal.
obsessed with her. Here you are contemplating on the way there,
Alone in a room, on a
Yeah.
couch next to each other. And I'm just drawing her all the time. In my mind, I'm looking at her and I'm drawing her as I'm looking at her.
Yeah.
Like I'm drawing her in my brain as I'm talking to her. I'm still drawing her.
So
Couldn't stop.
And was she nice to you? Like, how did it start? Like, so you sit
was
down,
so
you shake her
nice.
hand, and like,
Yeah, she was sweet. She was very soft spoken. She whispers when she talks. She talked like this, and that Irish accent. She hard to understand some of the things she said because she talked so low, and she looked down when she talked, and she kind of like this and this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, and it was just a great interview with her. It was just a brilliant interview, and she even said, she goes, "Oh, Chauncey, I love your name. This is one of the best interviews I've done. It was such a pleasure to meet you." I drove home. I don't think the wheels to my car ever touched the Garden State Parkway. Like I was flying. Like
So
I
you-
was.
yeah, because that's the thing too. So you do the interview. I'm assuming you tape recorded it, or you wrote it down, or however you transcribed it. So now you're like, all right, I have this interview because you were never in this world before. You're brand
Never.
new to all of this.
Didn't know anything what to do with it. In fact, I'll tell you this: Stepping Out was not the first people I called. The first people I called was the Aquarian. Do you remember the Aquarian?
The Aquarian, yeah, I think I remember
The East
Aquarian.
Coast Rocker Aquarian.
Yeah,
The
I remember.
the
I can see
music-
the logo in my head.
Yeah, it was like the Village Voice, only all
Yes.
music, right? It was in Long Island. It was the whole tri-state area.
Yeah,
right?
I remember the
It's
Aquarian.
still, I think it's still around.
I
Actually,
think so too. Actually,
Yeah, at least online it is. So anyway, I called them because it's music, and I thought, imagine being in the Inquirer. I mean, in East Coast Rocker, the Aquarian. So I called them and I told them what I had, and this woman who answered the phone told me to go fuck myself. I said, I have an interview with Sinead O'Connor. I was wondering if she goes, fuck you. And she hung up the phone.
What little do they know, you could have put the Aquarian on the map. and we
Yes,
could
I could have been the next, I
right,
could have been Chauncey Hayden from the Aquarian
right,
for the next 30
exactly.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she told me to go fuck myself. So then I said, well, let me just try stepping out. Let me call them and see, and
Wow.
they said, yes, we want it. And from that day on, I became the editor. And the next interview was with Phil Collins, then Billy
Wow.
Idol.
Holy
It went on and on and on. Every single week, we were weekly. Every week for almost 30 years, an interview.
And you're getting top names. You're not getting like regular.
No locals. No local.
Yeah, right.
It's all A-list. In fact, to give you an
Right out of the
example.
gate, Sinead O'Connor, Phil Collins.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
what?
to give you an example of how crazy it got. So one day, I'm sitting home and I'm watching. Remember, the TV show it's still on, Entertainment Tonight.
Yes.
On Channel 2, CBS, Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah.
I think it comes on at 7 or 8. So anyway, I would always watch Entertainment Tonight because that's where I would get ideas for interviews to see who's doing what and who's promoting what. So I'm watching ET, and they say before commercial break, coming up, our magazine cover of the week, and this week it's a tie. We'll be right back after this message. So I'm sitting there wondering what two magazines made, and it comes up, Vogue with Madonna on the cover. And who's in it tied? Stepping Out with, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was, oh my God, Gwyneth Paltrow. Stepping Out with Gwyneth Paltrow on the cover. And there's Vogue, and there's Stepping Out with Gwyneth Paltrow. It's a tie. I'm like, do these people know? Do they know what Stepping Out is?
Hey, that's so
They know
great.
it's all prostitutes in the back of the magazine. The back 15 pages are hookers. Don't they know it? Don't they know it? Have they ever seen the magazine?
Dude, that's all because of you, man. That's you.
Yeah.
You got to them to Entertainment Tonight. That's all
Oh,
you.
and then Jay Leno. And remember Jay Leno? He's doing
Yeah.
his monologue. He goes, so I got to tell you. And he pulls up and Stepping Out. He holds it up. Jay Leno doing his monologue. He goes, so Roger Clinton's on the cover of Stepping Out this week. Wait, now, get this. This is what Roger has to say. Let me read this from Chauncey from Stepping Out.
Wow.
In his monologue.
Holy
It went on and on like that, beyond human belief.
Dude.
We were a free giveaway rag in New Jersey, and it got that kind of attention from the world media. It was ridiculous. And I think that was Howard Stern's attraction to me in the magazine, because he couldn't believe it, and
Right.
it made him kind of chuckle.
Right, yeah, because here you are, a guy from a local free magazine, and you're making national headlines and national news and international.
Bigger than the big
as well.
magazines.
Right,
The big
yeah.
magazines couldn't get that press. Stuff, Us Weekly, People, they couldn't get the kind of headlines I was getting every single week.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's a huge testament to you and just how you managed to make it all happen and things to come to fruition like that. And now I want to go into this Sam Kinison one that kind of led you to Howard Stern.
Yeah.
So you get the interview with Sam. Where was what year was this, and what level was Sam at this point in his career? Like, was he Sam?
Not a good.
Sam yet?
Well, there's a two-part answer to that question. Initially, I was supposed to interview Sam Kinison on a downward side of his career when he was really drugged up, high, like playing small clubs. He was playing the Loft in Rockland County, New York, at a Holiday Inn.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And he played stadiums. Now he's playing the Loft. I think it was a 50-seat venue in a back room of a Holiday Inn, a banquet hall.
Right. Wow.
And so I go there, and I'm supposed to do an interview with him after the show. So I watch the show. He only makes it about 15 minutes into the show, and he's so high and coked up, he just can't do it. I have to take him off the show. I had to take him off the stage. So he goes into his hotel. There's a little hotel next door, Holiday Inn. He goes into his room, and his brother Bill comes out, and he says, "Okay, we're trying to get Sam to do the interview. Just relax here." So I'm waiting out there for about an hour, and Nothing, nothing. Then once in a while, Bill will come out. We'll work, just be chill, chill. We're working on it. And after about 2 hours, Bill comes out and says, John, sorry, man, he can't do it. He can't do it.
Right.
Now, I already had the cover printed, right? So I'm saying Sam Kinison interviewed. It's already
Right.
gone to
So-
print.
Yeah,
Because
you
that would
need
go
this
to
now.
print a week before the magazine.
Right.
So I'm like, you can't do this to me. You can't. I'm screwed. The cover says interview with Sam Kinison. He goes, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. So instead of the interview, I wrote a story in the magazine saying what happened that night, explaining that Sam was so bad. He only did 15-minute set, staggered to it. It was so coked up, and the whole thing. I was very honest about.
Yeah, you had no choice.
I had
Yeah.
no choice. I explained what happened.
And it's a great story to tell. Yeah.
Great story to tell, right? So 6 months go by, and Sam's back, and he's doing Rascals in West Orange.
Right.
I don't know if you remember Rascals Comedy Club. So
Yeah.
he's doing Rascals, a little better venue, and the owner of Rascals, I'm not supposed to interview him or anything. I'm just there to see the show. And the owner of Rascals was an advertiser, and he said, "Hey, man, you want to come backstage after the show?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to come backstage, hang out." So I go backstage, and Sam's back there, and his entourage, and Bill, and then Bill comes up to me, and he pulls out the issue I did 6 months ago, telling what happened the night at the Holiday Inn, and he goes, "You're Chauncey Hayden," and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're the one who wrote this piece of shit." And I said, "I wrote that," and because it's true. And he said, "Sam, this is Chauncey." Sam comes running over, jumps on me, gets me into a headlock, throws me on the ground. His bodyguard is kicking me. They take my camera, smash it, takes my tape and recorder, smashes it while they're all punching me and kicking me.
What the hell?
In the green room of Rascals. So the next morning, it's in all the newspapers. Right? It's in all the newspapers that Sam Kinison and his entourage attacked and brutally beat this journalist backstage.
Wow.
Sam's supposed to come on Howard the next morning. So that was the first day I went on Howard Stern. That was what I was telling you earlier.
Right.
So Howard has me on the air saying what happened, and Howard was going to try and get us two together on the air. And Howard Sam wouldn't come on, so Howard did a whole hour with just me talking about it and making jokes about it. So to answer your question, so about 2 years went by, and Sam was promoting a TV show he was working on. He was going to star in. And that's when I finally he had forgotten all that other stuff. And that's the interview in the book. The one where Sam was trying to get clean right before he died.
Right.
It was right before he died. And he was getting his shit together. He was clean. He had a lot of things on the fire. And I got a much more coherent Sam in that interview. So I was glad to get it before he died.
Yeah, it's a great interview too. Everyone's got to get the book and check that out. But with Sam, when you finally landed the interview and actually got the interview all those years later,
Yeah.
he had no recollection that it was you, the guy he beat up in
I don't know. He never said anything, and I didn't bring it up. So I don't know. He was so crazy, and he was all over the place. I would bet he didn't have a clue who I was or remembered what happened. That's what I'm going to bet. Because I think you either would have said no to the interview or would have said something. But it never came up. And I kept waiting for it to come up. I kept waiting. And nothing was ever said. So
for Sam, it could have just been just another interview. He didn't really realize who it was.
Probably did a bunch of interviews that day or that week. And it was just, he wasn't even thinking who I was from or what my name was. He probably didn't even know my name.
And that's what started the rocket ship, the voyage with Howard Stern. After you were on there and he got to know you and talk to you and realize that you're a character in your own right and that
I'm a character in my own right. He learned how to make me a character. He found what was funny with me that he could use for his show.
Right.
I wouldn't be funny on my own on the radio, but he knew how to present me as funny, by creating a character. It's just like the WWE. Like, it has nothing to do with my personality or who I am as a person. It's a cartoon he draws of you.
Right.
And he presents that cartoon to his listeners.
Right.
And when people meet me on the street, they say, "You're nothing like Chauncey." You go, I hate you." He goes, "I hate you." And when I met you, I wanted to hate you. He goes, "But when I talk to you, I don't hate you. I like you."
Right.
He goes, "Why do I like you when I should be hating you? Because I hated you for 20 years. I go, "Because you hated the character, Chauncey Hayden, that Howard invented." I can't be that. I wouldn't know how to be that guy in real life.
Right.
That was a drawing that Howard made.
And you were how long a part of that show? A couple, like I would say about 10
20,
years,
21 years.
21 years. And then how did it all fall apart?
Oh,
I don't think I know that story.
it's the greatest story of all time. The way it fell apart, I had just auditioned for Stuttering John's job. And I was at the peak of my fame of Howard Stern. Like he was just getting ready to go Sirius. They had offered me a job there. I would have been part of the crew going on to Sirius. Things were looking good for me and my future with the Howard Stern show. Then one day I get a call at my office at Stepping Out, and the guy goes, "I'm from the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, and we want to ask you questions about Howard Stern." And I said, "Sal, go fuck yourself."
Right.
And I hung up the phone. And I hung up the phone. Call back. "No, this is really the SEC. We need to talk. Fuck you, Sal." And I hung up the phone. Next day, I get a FedEx package with a subpoena from the SEC saying you need to appear before the commission in New York City on Wall Street to testify regarding insider stock trading regarding Howard Stern. And so I call the Stern show, and they laugh. They go, no, bullshit, throw it away. It's not real. And I got Gary on the phone. He laughed and said no. So I said, it looks so real. It looks real. I'm not going to throw it away and get arrested if it's real.
Right. Yeah.
So a buddy of mine worked at the New York Post, and he was the business editor at the New York Post. So I said, he'll know if it's real. So I called him and said, I got this subpoena. I think it's a joke from the Stern show or from somebody pranking me. I go, if I fax it to you, can you tell me this is what a subpoena looks like from the SEC? He goes, send it over. Send it over. Didn't hear anything. It was a Friday. I didn't hear anything. So I'm like, oh, you probably threw it out. It's got to be fake. Didn't think anything of it. The next morning, I'm in Dunkin' Donuts, and I walk in, and there's a news rack. And in the news rack is the New York Post. And the front page of the New York Post is my subpoena, Howard Stern, and me on the front page of the New York Post.
Wow.
Saying, Chauncey brings down the king of all media.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And Howard is on vacation that week. That was the week he took off on vacation. So Howard's out in St. Bart's, and you can imagine Don Buchwald, his agent, called him and said, "Hey, Howard, have you seen the New York Post this morning?" He goes, "No, I'm on the beach. What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're on the cover with Chauncey. He's going to destroy you."
Whoa, man.
Yeah. I wake up to news trucks with satellites in front of my house from every news station in the world in front of my house.
That's nuts.
In front of my house. So and it was just after Martha Stewart got sent to prison for the same thing. And the reason why they picked me is because I had a gig on ABC News. They just started an online version of ABC News, an internet version. It just started.
Right.
And I would do a show called Tattletales with Gigi Stone, the journalist, talking about gossip. And one of her questions was, so Chauncey, you know Howard, is he going to go to Sirius or XM? Or is he going to stay at K-Rock? I said, well, he's not staying at K-Rock, definitely. And I said, he's not going to go to XM because Opie and Anthony are there. My guess is I would bet the farm he's going to Sirius. There's nowhere else left to go but Sirius. That's the end of the segment. About a month later, I'm in the studio sitting on the couch with Howard, and Howard says to Robin, I want to make an announcement. I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to Sirius Satellite Radio. Big news. Everyone goes crazy. It's all the papers. Howard's going to Sirius. I'm sitting there with them. The SEC says, hold on a second. This guy, a couple of weeks ago, told everybody to bet on Sirius, that's what Howard's doing. Then Howard has Chauncey on the show and announces that's what he's doing. Howard told Chauncey what he's doing, leaked it,
so
Chauncey through a free giveaway magazine on his radio show and on ABC. Insider trading. Howard's going to prison. Can't do that. That's illegal.
Right.
And that's what they tried to get him on.
Damn.
And I had to go before the SEC. And that is when Howard came back from vacation. I was on one more time. I said, Howard, listen, I did what I had to do because I was interviewed by everybody. He goes, so Chauncey was on a media tour this week. He talked to the Wall Street Journal. He talked to the New York Times. He talked to Fox News. He talked to CNN. He talked to MSNBC. He goes, so this is the last you'll hear Chauncey ever mentioned on the show. Chauncey's more dangerous than I thought he was. This is the end. Don Buchwald told me I should have done this a long time ago. Chauncey's gone. And I was gone. That's the day he put a bullet in my head and threw me over the side of the boat.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
And
You
obviously,
you can Google it. It's all on Google. You can Google
oh
my
yeah,
name and SEC.
I'll be showing
There-
clips of everything
There's a
throughout.
billion articles about it on Google.
Yeah, man. That's this is that's crazy. And obviously, it didn't go anywhere. There was no insider trading charges
Well,
or
yeah,
anything.
Howard's accountant went to jail.
Oh no shit.
Howard's accountant went to prison. So he did something shady with Sirius. He pleaded guilty, but Howard didn't go to jail. And I had to go in, and I had an attorney who gave me the best advice. He said, because there were about 20 people around this conference table at the SEC, all asking questions. This was a big story. And he said, besides your name, no matter what they ask you, say, I don't recall. Because if you think you recall and you're wrong, they can throw you in jail, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Just for that, for getting the answer wrong, they can throw
Right.
you in jail. So you could go in innocent and leave guilty. He said, so the answer is, I don't recall. So I just sat there and they said, so were you sitting with Howard on October 12th, 2004? And I said, I don't recall. I said, did you ever talk to Howard about Sirius, or did you ever say the name Sirius on a show called ABC Tattletale? I don't recall. And I just kept saying, I don't recall. And finally, the guy
Right.
banged his hand on the table and said, what the fuck do you recall? I said, I don't recall. I don't recall. I mean,
That's great.
you can't throw me in jail for not recalling.
Right.
Said, so what do you recall? I said, I don't recall what I don't recall. And I did that for about 6 hours.
Wow.
All day. Yep.
Yeah, it's a smart move because, like you said, you're if you whatever you say will be used against you. Whatever.
And you get one thing, even if you did it by accident, you said something wrong.
Yeah.
Howard could walk free and you go to jail.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, he said that's how you handle the SEC. You say I don't recall except for your name.
So it's what. So that was the end for you on Howard Stern, but it wasn't even your fault. You got dragged into it.
Wasn't my fault, but and a lot of people to this day hate me for it, but I don't see why I'm to blame. But listen, when Howard makes you the villain, you're the villain.
Right,
There's no
yeah.
questions asked. There's no debating it.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
there's no like, wait a minute, I have my side. No, you're the villain. That's how it goes. 18 million people hate you now. And,
Right.
and I got death threats. I had people trying to saying they were going to kill me, put a bullet in my head. I went through a lot. I got blackballed from the industry. I couldn't get interviews anymore.
I was going to say, did it hurt stepping out?
Yeah,
And
destroyed me. At least he tried to. I overcame it. I refused to let it destroy me. But for I'd say 2 years, it was very hard for me to continue. But I just fought through it. I just refused. And in fact, I took the other angle and went to war with Howard. So I don't know how much you know, but Neil Cavuto would have me on Fox News. And I once did a full hour on Neil Cavuto talking about the scam that Sirius is and how the subscribers are getting scammed and the Howard Stern show is a farce. And everything I said on Neil Cavuto happened. It's now true today.
Right.
I said, he's going to censor you. It's not the rebel with the fist in the air. It's not that at all. They're going to be commercials. There's going to be censoring. Howard's not going to be that guy you think he's going to be. And Howard was so incensed over it that he did a whole hour with Neil Cavuto on the phone the next morning and demanded an hour equal time the next day and got it. So I went on for an hour the first day. Howard went on for an hour the second day, just trashing me.
I'm a watcher of Neil Cavuto, and I am a
little disappointed with yesterday?
Yeah, I was. I didn't actually see it. Someone played it for me today, and Neil, I don't even know where to begin with this story. It's bizarre of you to put Chauncey on as a Howard Stern expert.
How did you determine that he was an expert?
How is he a Howard Stern expert?
Well, we certainly tried, Howard, to get you. We tried to get anyone from Sirius to talk
Okay,
about it.
assuming.
Wow.
So I was in Howard's head.
You
And
would
still
definitely, yeah.
To this day, I'm still in Howard's head. I did a whole thing in the Daily News how he didn't go to Gary's father's funeral. I did a whole thing because he said Beth broke her leg on the way to the funeral. And I said, it was in the Daily News. I said how that's bullshit. I said, isn't it funny? There's not one picture of Beth in an emergency room or a hospital.
Right, yeah.
But if Beth and Howard in an emergency room, Beth broke a leg, you don't think there'd be one bit of evidence, one picture, one witness,
Exactly.
one story how Beth was seen in the emergency room in Long Island Hospital? Nothing. Where's her cast?
Right.
Nothing. And so Howard went crazy over it. So I started needling him and I started digging at him that way.
I love
you
that.
know?
Yeah, you
so
went on the attack.
I stayed in his head. And actually, I would say to this day. And then I started doing hair shows about how I know Howard Stern wears a wig.
Yes.
And that started coming out in all the hair podcasts. And that drove Howard crazy because it's true. And I knew it years ago. And I had proof. And I started coming clean about it. And so I became more of a villain to him than he was to me.
That's it. You punched the bully in the nose.
I punched him in the nose. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great how you handle that situation because you got dragged into something you didn't want to. Howard tried to use you as a scapegoat and beat you up a little bit, but you fought back. And yeah, despite the like you said, some of the backlash, you still maintained like you still continued on doing interviews and you still continued on with stepping out and doing what you do, right?
And what's funny about it is I haven't been on the show since 2005, right? That was the last time I was on the show. Was it 20 years ago? 20 years ago. And people still talk about me or will confront me as if I was on the show yesterday.
Right. Exactly.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
What does that say? It's like, oh, Chauncey from the Stern Show. 20 years ago. I barely remember it. And I had people telling me, oh, when you brought in Beetlejuice's family, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You know, there's so many things that people know about me from 20 years ago and in really longer than that because I started the show 40 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So,
you were like almost the beginnings of K-Rock era.
From the very beginnings. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. And then also, you know, through stepping out too. And I know this because he's not a comedian, so it's not featured in the book or anything, but you had a relationship with Donald Trump, you're rocking on your hat right now.
Sorry. I hope that's
no, that's fine. Yeah,
hate to be political, but I'm so proud of our president that you know, I probably people won't buy the book that for the simple reason that I'm a Trump supporter, but I don't care. I wouldn't want you to buy the book if you don't support Trump.
Yeah, anybody watching this is a Trump supporter probably, so they'll be with you.
If you're not a Trump supporter, you're not allowed to buy the book. we have ways of knowing. We know who you are. So don't. I'll come to your house and take the book out of your house. So don't. So I know Donald Trump. I've sat in his office. Just he and I have sat in his office at Trump Tower bullshitting for hours on end. I've interviewed him so many times over the years. And one of the greatest things that I love about Donald Trump that is there forever for people to listen to. So I did a story about all this woman. She did the Stern Show a few times. Dr. Victoria Zadrock. I don't know if you remember her or not.
Yeah, I remember the
Dr.
name.
Z.
Yes. Yeah, Dr. Z.
He was like, Stern used to make fun of her clit, saying it was like this penis. It was so big.
Right,
so,
right.
She was in Penthouse and Playboy. Anyway.
Right.
So I did an interview with her about dating Donald Trump. She told me what it's like to go on a date with Trump. So I did a whole thing about it, did an interview with her because I thought it was a funny story. And I sent the interview to Trump and said, can you confirm or deny what she's saying? I don't want to print this without you having a say if it's bullshit or not, or what do you want to say about what she's saying about you? So I didn't hear anything back. And then 3 a.m, my phone rings, 3 a.m. And it's a New York number. And I'm like, who's calling me from New York at 3 a.m? So I pick it up and it's Donald Trump.
See, my man.
Am I fired?
How are you? You'll never fire me, Chauncey. But Chauncey, we've been good to your magazine with The Apprentice. You saw the ratings that went to #1. I mean, it's killing it.
The show is huge.
And I'm like, wait. Well, it's actually his secretary, Nora, who passed away. Nora.
Oh yeah.
Who would always make the call for him. So Nora rings me up and says, Chauncey, it's Nora. are you free to talk to Donald? 3 in the morning. I said yes. And my phone was hooked up to a recorder because whenever I did phone interviews, I would have it ready to go. So it
Right.
was set up that way. So I said, I got to record this. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-second call or what, but
Right.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump, I'm
Yeah,
going
it's
to record
Donald
it.
Trump. 3 in the
So I hit play
morning.
record. And for the next 10 minutes, Donald Trump goes on. Oh my God. Let me cut to the chase. It's on YouTube. If you type in my name and his name, you
Okay.
can listen to the call at 3 in the morning that Donald Trump made to me. And it is hysterical. He's like, she's a whore. She's a whore. Chauncey, I never fucked her. I never would fuck a penthouse pet. You know me better
Wow.
than that. And it goes,
Wow.
oh, it's amazing.
Chaunce, this person, I don't even know who the hell she is. I never took her out. I don't know who she is. And by the way, based on her picture, I would never take her. She looks like a fucking third-grade hooker. I mean, give me a break. I never took this girl out.
She claims that she went on 4 dates.
I never took her out.
President of the United States. It's amazing.
That's gold.
So you can listen to it on YouTube.
That's so crazy. So like, yeah. So when you had this, obviously you never imagined at that time that he would become the president and one of the greatest presidents.
No.
So like, when was the last time you heard from him? Have you heard? Did you hear from him when he was on any of the campaign trails or any of that kind of stuff?
Not since he's been president. I used to hear a lot from his daughter, Ivana, because she's in real estate, and I was looking for an apartment in Jersey City, and they have the Trump Tower in Jersey City, so she was helping me find apartments and maybe something I would like there. So I took photos of the daughter. I got to know the daughter pretty well, so I was always friendly to her, and I was friendly with the mom, Ivanka. But Donald, no. Once he started thinking president, he went his way, and that was the end of that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but I had some great. I had when he was in the gossip world, when he loved to see his name in bold.
Yeah.
In that underworld, he was fun because he always would talk to you. He called me up to his office one time, and it's a huge office, huge, and it's just me and him in that big desk. And after the interview, he says, "Chaunce, I want to show you something." And he has me stand. He goes, "You like real estate?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I have a house, but that's as much." He goes, "I want to show you. Look out that window." And we're looking out, just he and I, looking out the window facing New Jersey. And from that view, you could see the West Side Highway and all those big apartment buildings along the West Side Highway just before you got to the Intrepid aircraft carrier. Right. So you had all these buildings. And he said, "I've been trying," he said, "to buy those buildings. And I wanted to make them better and make them taller. I've been trying for 10 years to buy them. And those fuckers won't sell me the building." He said, "So you see that dump in front of those buildings? I just bought it. I just bought that junkyard in front of those apartments. You know what I'm going to do, Chaunce? I'm going to build whatever story those apartments are. I'm going about 50 stories higher and going to destroy their value because that beautiful view they have of the Hudson River in 5 years won't be there anymore. They're going to be looking at the kitchen of all my tenants." And he did. He bought it was like a landfill, and he bought the landfill, and he put giant Trump
To
buildings
block their view.
in front of them, blocking the whole West Side Highway. So whatever value they had, it's cut in half. They don't have a view anymore. He told me years before he was going to do it that he was doing it. So that was the Donald Trump I got to know and love.
And you got a lesson in how Trump, the art of the deal, how he works.
Art of the deal, ruthless. Chauncey, I gave him a chance. I was going to pay them more. He said I was going to pay them more than they were worth. I was going to pay him double than what they were worth because it was worth it to me to pay them double. And he said, because I'm Trump, they won't sell to me. Because that's all right. That's all right. Watch.
And he's kind of doing that now, if you think about it, with the tariffs. It's kind of the same type of thing. It's the same move.
Like, don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. I'm going to give you a chance. But if you don't do what I want, I'm going to destroy you.
Right. I'll take the value away or something like that.
Yeah, do what I'm asking you to do, and let's play nice. Because if you don't, I'm going to play ugly, and I always win. And he does. So I love him, and I'm glad I got to know him personally. And I think that call on YouTube, is it's just I'm so glad I recorded that call because that is the president of the United States. And when you hear it, you will not believe it. You will not believe that we're having this conversation.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how the world works for everything from kind of your claim to fame with Sinead O'Connor to Howard Stern to Donald Trump. And here we are all these years later. Howard Stern is woke. Donald Trump's the president. You're in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dad in not just Ireland, rural Ireland. Like I live. Did you ever see the movie The Quiet Man with John Wayne? It's an old Irish movie. I live in a town with horse and buggies, cows and sheep.
Wow,
it's one street. I live in the middle of nowhere in Ireland, just rolling green hills and little stone fences.
That's awesome.
I used to roam the streets of New York at night at midnight looking for gossip, going into the clubs and the sex clubs and the strip joints and the drug dens and celebrity underground hangouts. And that was my life, drinking and drugging and fucking and just doing all the things decadent and wrong and evil. Now I have a 13-year-old daughter. I'm in a little quiet village in Ireland with cows, sheep, and horses. And that's my life. That's my life. You couldn't make it up.
You never would have believed yourself if you told yourself that that's
No. I wouldn't believe my life now as much as Howard Stern wouldn't have believed his life 20 years ago.
Exactly, man.
Yeah,
exactly. And I do think putting this body of work together that you did with this book, must have been a cathartic time too, because you got to go back to the archives and get them all into a organized book that something you could look back on. It's was it 50 interviews or 50 of the greats?
It's 50, and I'll tell you, it's so hard because I could have put 200. Right, there's so many. I have thousands of interviews, thousands, and you just can't do them all. So it's too much. So for this book, I just wanted 50. I thought 50 was a nice round number, 50.
Yeah.
So I picked 50, but then I have to go through and find out what 50 are the ones that should be in this book. That was hard for me.
Yeah.
There were a lot of comedians that I would love to have in the book, but I had to make the cut somewhere. So these are the 50 that I really enjoyed their interviews, that I thought had the most interesting things to say, and I don't know, just touched me. I just love these interviews, and I love these comedians, and they all went great. Some of them were assholes when I spoke to them. Some weren't. Some were. But it's such an eclectic group. You look at George Burns, Carrot Top, Gilbert Gottfried, Richard Pryor, Bill Maher, Joe Rogan. It's such a great list. This is the cover, by the way. I know. Can you see it? That's the cover.
Yeah, the cover is awesome. Great cover. I love it. Yeah, you got Carlin, Pryor, Klein, Rickles, Burns, Jackie
Bobcat
Mason.
Goldthwait, Larry the Cable Guy, David Spade, Richard Belzer, Dice Clay, Don Rickles, Michael Richards, Robert Schimmel, Robert Klein.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
It's legends.
And a lot of then I went back and said, how many are dead?
Right. There's quite a few.
How many? I'll tell you how many. There are 12 in the book that have died.
Right. Yeah.
David Brent is dead. He's in the book. Don Rickles is dead. George Burns is dead. George Carlin is dead. Gilbert Gottfried is dead. Jackie Mason is dead in the book. Joan Rivers is dead in the book. Pat Cooper, Richard Belzer, Richard Pryor, Robert Schimmel, and Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
All dead.
Wow.
And Artie Lang's in the book. I'm not sure if he's dead. So it's a question mark after Artie's name because he might be dead.
He gets an asterisk, because we don't know.
12 and a half are dead in the book.
12 and a half. No, it's a great book, and I love to see them all together because and you also, I like that you put the year next to the interview because it kind of puts it in perspective. That time period. Yeah.
That's what makes the book so interesting. Is that someone once said to me, well, they should all be now contemporary. I said, no, that ruins it. I said, the beauty is that you you know how these people thought maybe when Bill Clinton was running for president, to hear their viewpoint, when this was going on in the world, to hear them talk about it. After 9/11, to hear Bill Maher talk about 9/11.
Right.
So it's really kind of a ride through history, not just the interview with the comic, but through history of what was going on at that time and a comic's point of view. That's the point of the book, that it goes back 30 years to what was going on for those years. I think if it was all about today, it would get boring. It'd be redundant.
Right. Yeah.
I love that it takes you through this winding road of 30 years.
I love that too, because it does take you back into certain areas, like you mentioned, like 9/11 and some of the time periods, things that were happening at that time. Also where they were in their careers space.
Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope
Right.
talking about the Man Show.
Yeah.
That was Joe Rogan. It was not the Joe Rogan we know today.
Right,
When
yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel left the Man Show, this was a big break for Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And to hear him talking about titties, and he's so filthy dirty, and it's not the Joe Rogan you hear today.
Right.
But you hear him talking then, he'd probably cringe reading that interview today.
Oh,
but
yeah.
this was Joe Rogan at that time period. So I'm sure a lot of the comics in the book wouldn't be thrilled to be in the book because maybe their opinions have changed since then, but that's not the point of the book.
Right.
The point of the book, one of the interesting stories about the book is with Bill Breuer. Do you know Bill Breuer, Goat Boy from Saturday Night Live?
Oh, Jim Breuer. Yeah. Yeah.
What did I say, Bill? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Jim.
Yeah. Long
Jim
Island
Breuer.
guy. Yeah.
Long Island. So Jim Breuer did an interview with me, and I remember talking to him saying, Jim, so this past week, Rolling Stone magazine put half the cast of Saturday Night Live on the cover. Half the cast. You didn't make the cut. I said, how does that make the other half feel to have half of you on the cover of Rolling Stone, which must be such a cool, great thing for a comic on SNL, and the other half to say, nah, you're not going to get the cover. You didn't make it. That has to cause a divide. Now, he had a lot of ways of answering that question. Could answer it very safe and politically correct and said, listen, Chauncey, we're a team. At the end of the day, promote Saturday Night Live.
Right,
And that's
yeah.
what we want to do is promote the show. We all have our own press. We all get tons of press. You know, that's the way they wanted to do it. That's not what he said. He said, Chauncey, he goes, it's a real sticking point with me and the cast who didn't get it. We blame Lorne Michaels. It was his decision. He goes, he's a kind of an asshole for doing it. He goes, we all put in as much time as the others. And if we all went on the cover, none of us should have been on the cover. And quite frankly, it's a lot of tension on the set now because of it.
Wow.
So that makes the headline in page 6 about Goat Boy fuming at Lorne Michaels about Rolling Stone. Lorne Michaels calls my office and says, hey, Chauncey, send me that interview with Bill. I say Bill again, Jim. I don't know why I keep calling him Bill. I'm thinking of Bill Breuer. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
He's on my mind. So he says, send me the interview with Jim. So I send it over. The next day, it's in the papers. Breuer fired from Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
So he got fired for his interview he did with me. He calls me up and says, Chauncey, you fucked me. You fucked me. Why'd you do that? And I said, and I get this a lot with my interviews. And I said, I didn't fuck you. I said, I asked you a question. I said, you fucked yourself. Why would you tell an interview that you've agreed to do with a tape recorder in my hand for a Q&A in a magazine that you blame your boss for not being on the cover of Rolling Stone? Did I fuck you or did you fuck you?
Exactly.
I would have said, if that was the guy who paid my check, I would have said, I have no problem with it. Next question.
Right. Exactly.
I said, I'm not your publicist. I'm not here.
Yeah. You don't have to edit him out.
You don't pay me thousands to do your PR.
Right.
I would have said, don't say that. But I asked you questions hoping to get an honest answer. You gave me an honest answer and I appreciate it. But I didn't get you fired. You got you fired.
Right. And you knew too, as you're doing your job as a journalist to say, oh, this is a freaking hot answer he just gave me. This is good stuff. Like you knew, yeah. So
I knew. I'm not gonna say to him, whoa, let's turn the tape off here. Hey, Jim, that might get you some trouble. Let's redo that answer. And this time say to me, oh, Chauncey, no, I have no problem with it. This way you're safe and nothing bad. Why? Who does that? Why would I do that?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then someone's
No,
being
that's
interviewed. Someone's going to be the interview. Wow, that's kind of a boring answer to that question. That's really how he feels. He doesn't really care. They didn't get the cover of Rolling Stone. You would think
right.
that would bother him. A boring interview.
Exactly. No,
So,
you got the real deal out of him. And that
so,
takes an
so
art too for people to feel comfortable enough with you to forget maybe that they're being interviewed and just to talk.
Gary Delabate from the Stern Show used to say, fucking Chauncey, he's got that little cherub face. He's got these little rosy cheeks, and he smiles when he asks you the question, and he lures you in because you think you think he's your friend because he's smiling and his cheeks are so rosy and he's looking at you with those squinty eyes, and you like him. You like him.
Right.
But then he turns around and stabs you in the back. But I say, no, you stab yourself in the
Right.
back.
It's not stabbing in the back. You're doing your job.
It's
Yeah.
on tape. I just asked you a question. You
Right.
answer it the way you want to answer it. So that's always been a problem. But anyway, those are the kind of things in the book that the reason why I picked these interviews, because they all have a story to tell and they all led to consequences and various things in my history and the history of comedy and history of America.
Yeah.
Great. That's what I love about the book.
I think the book's awesome. Yeah,
So-
I went through a lot of it. First of all, it's a very impressive all these gets that you did get. I mean, you talk to icons, from Carlin to Pryor to Don Rickles,
Don
George
Rickles was
Burns.
great. I love Tommy Chong. That's a good one.
Tommy Chong's he's the greatest.
He was just got out of jail. He just got out of jail for drugs, and he's so angry and honest about drugs, and he has all these conspiracy theories about drugs. There's so many great interviews. If you get the book, you can get it on Amazon. Just type in the title 50. What's it called? 50 of the funniest people of all time.
Yeah, 50 of the funniest people of all time, three
Of all
decades
time.
of legendary interviews with Chauncey Hayden. So yeah, everybody's
Yeah, the hardcover, I have to admit it's expensive, but it's like a coffee table book.
It's like a big.
It's a book with great pictures inside with the along with the interview. So it's something you display on your coffee table. So it's pricey, but I think it's something you'll want to have displayed.
Especially if you're a comedy fan, which a lot of my
If you're
viewers
a comedy fan, and it's a great conversation piece. If you come in, you have guests over to pick it up, and you say, "Oh, look at that! Look at that!" It's awesome. But you can also get for $5, you can get the digital version and just read it on your Kindle or
right on
phone or something. You can do it that way too.
Excellent.
But whatever, I'm now working on the music version of that book, so I have 100 interviews with rock stars and hip hop artists and all kinds of people. That's coming out next year, but that's
wow.
in progress.
So give us a sample of, just give us like maybe top 5 that's coming up on that music one. Like, who do you got?
Oh, on the music one, let's see. Oh, wait, let's see. Can I tell you? I think I can. Let me think. I just posted it too. I'll tell you the ones I like.
Okay.
I just posted it. Let me see.
This is cool. Yeah.
Let me see. Who did I put? I have to go through. A lot of my Facebook texts are angry messages of things I hate and people I hate. So I have to kind of get through it. Let's see. Do I have it? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm doing this. I say, oh, here we go. All right. So this is just an example of some of the people I have coming out in the rock and roll book. And like I say, it's not just rock and roll, it's music.
Right, yeah.
So I got Robbie Krieger of The Doors.
Nice.
I got Cyndi Lauper, Pat Benatar, Phil Collins, Gretchen Wilson, Iggy Pop, Johnny Rotten, Alice Cooper, Boy George, The Corrs. I got David Lee Roth. I got Dee Snider, Henry Rollins, Isaac Hayes. I just lost it. I just lost it.
Wow.
But there's so many. There's a lot of rappers. There's Run DMC. There's just so many over 30 years.
When you look back at them all, when you're going through these
Alice
archives, shout out to Alice Cooper. I love him. But when you look back now, your body of work, especially when you're archiving for these books that are coming out, how does that feel like? Do you feel like, man, I can't believe that I was able to be a part of all of this and talk to all of these people, all these, kind of icons, through history?
I tell you what, it's a good question. I don't think that way. You know what I think when I'm putting all these together? I think how I want my daughter to remember me. If only she saw the book would be enough for me, because I want her, because I had a child very late in life. Right? I had a child in my 50s. So I want her, when I'm gone, to be able to look back and show her children what their grandfather did and what her dad did for a living, because she missed it. She doesn't know what I did for a living. She doesn't know me as a journalist. She just knows me as a dad.
Right.
So for her to go back when, as she gets older, and say, wow, my dad did all these interviews, and these are questions, like, he's not here anymore, but these are his words, his questions, and this is what he did with all these people. And I want it to be something that she remembers me by, and that can cherish as a memory of who her dad was on this world. That's the reason why I did it. That's the only reason why I did it, actually.
Wow.
So selling books doesn't really mean anything to me. If nobody ever bought a book, I could care less. It's really about her reading these books of her dad's legacy.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And yeah, I think that's important. Especially it's important for you, but I think it's important for other people to want to do the same types of things. And I just think it puts it all in the right place. It makes
Well,
you know.
Well, right now, she only knows, if she Googles me, it says, Chauncey sucks. I hope you die. You should have AIDS. I hate you. Like that she sees, all she sees is that over and over again. She goes, Dad, why do so many people hate you? I say, what are you talking about? Let me just read this to you. Chauncey Hayden is a fag. Chauncey Hayden looks like a retard. Chauncey Hayden has pale skin like Corky from that TV show with the retard. Chauncey Hayden should die. And it just goes on and on. She goes, I said, that's all. I tell her, I go, that's all from your grandmother. We never got along. I said, we never got along. That's all your grandmother.
That's all her.
She hated me.
That's great. So now I want to like kind of ask you also, because we know your first interview, which is an amazing story with Sinead O'Connor, but what was your last one? Do you remember your very last interview?
Well, let's see. I remember the last one for Stepping Out, and it was the guy from Porn Stars, the bald guy.
Oh,
you know, Porn Stars?
Yeah.
Rick, God, I can't think of his last name.
Yeah.
You know, Porn Stars, the bald guy.
Yeah, the father.
The father.
Yeah.
It was him. But that you know what? I the very last interview I did, I'd have to really think. Maybe it was AJ Benzer about Harvey Weinstein. That could have been it.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I when that was going on, I sat down with AJ, because AJ was really good friends with Harvey. That could have been the last. And I hate to say the word last, because I don't want to think that I'm never going to ever talk to anyone again. That sounds so final. Like there might be other. I'm not going to say the last, because I don't know if there is a last yet. You know, I do feel like the day will come when I have another forum or outlet to do more interviews and to maybe continue. Just right now, I'm focused on being a dad. That's all I care about. I just, my daughter, and there's nothing else. Nothing. Like I don't
respect
work.
that big time.
I pick her up from school, I bring her home, and I feed her, and I put her to bed. And that's my job. I'm a full-time dad. So
yeah, I respect that. See, you, I think it was smart to have her later, because now you have the time and the wherewithal, the brain to want to be there with her all.
I got the craziness out of me. The craziness is all like, I'm not the stalker that I was with Sinead O'Connor. I've kind of grown up, you know. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I really don't have any vices at all. I golf, and that's it. I golf and take care of my daughter, and we go on trips around the world. That's my thing. My hobby is taking her all over the world. We go to France, we go to Italy, we go to Spain, the Bahamas, Jamaica. We go everywhere.
That's awesome, man.
My goal is to take her to as many places as I can while I'm still able to, before I'm in a rocking chair or wheelchair. Right. I just keep her moving, keep her going, to see as much of the world as she and I can together. That's what I do now.
Right on, brother. Well, Chauncey, this was amazing getting an opportunity to talk to you. I appreciate your time, man. I know you're
Sure.
over there in Ireland. It's late for you where you are. But just tell everybody again where they could find you, follow you, and also get the book and all that good stuff.
Oh, sure. If I haven't bored everybody to death, if you're still there, please, you can buy my book, 50 of the Funniest People of All Time. You can get it on Amazon.com. Just type that in the title, and it will take you right to the book by Chauncey Hayden. And there's 3 versions. There's the hardcover, the soft cover, and the digital. All different prices. I understand hardcover is expensive, but you won't regret it. It's really something you want to display. But if you don't have the cash, then just get the digital, and I hope you enjoy the interviews. Facebook, it's Chauncey Hayden, right? On Instagram, I don't have any followers really because I got hacked and I lost my account. So I only have like 300 followers, but it's Chauncey Hayden 100 on Instagram because I had to start a new account. And on X, which I use the most, it's just Chauncey Hayden. CHAUNCE Hayden, HAYDEN. There's no Y in Chauncey, just Chauncey with an E, Hayden. And that's it. I'm like I say, I'm not really pushing hard to sell anything. I just like making these books for my daughter and talking about the old days and talking to guys like you that ask great questions. And it's just fun to reminisce.
Dude, this was awesome. I would definitely love to have you back on because there's a million other things we could talk about too. Because you're definitely a wealth of information and knowledge, and because I want to, the next time we talk, I want to get into the art of interviewing and all kinds of stuff with you.
I do have, and there is an art to it. I had a set formula. We'll talk about it next time. But I have all my notebooks of every interview I ever did. I have notebooks with every question, and we'll talk about it. We won't do it now. That's a whole mathematical formula.
Dude, we're definitely going to have you back on because this is great, man. I'm definitely keeping in touch. You rock, my friend. And if you ever come back to the States and you're in the New York, New Jersey area.
No, wait. We're having a book release party in New York at Dangerfields on, I think, July 24th. I think it's a Thursday in July. I think it's July 24th. We're having a book release party. So if you're able to, please come out to it.
That will be fantastic. I'm marking it.
Open bar.
Let's do it. You're the man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Chauncey Hayden, everybody. Check him out.
Thanks, guys. Thanks from Ireland.